Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, and with me, as always, the co-pilot here and the man with all of the ability to pick and make you rich, Chris King. Christopher, always good, my friend. Let's talk about. First of all, I'd like to thank Avatar Jim for filling in for me yesterday. I appreciate it.
We wish him well in his future endeavors.
Thank you very much. I will send him regards. He was very pleased to be able to work with you, especially on a day, Mr. King, when you knocked it out of the park on a number of parlays yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, we hit both of the two teamers and we told you about Iona that they were going to take care of business against Delaware, and as you saw, that took place. The Blue Hens were no match at the UBS Arena, so the Gales went home with a win. We talked about both the NFL games yesterday, with the football team falling to the Eagles and the Rams beating the Seahawks. Both those panned out. Even though Washington started strong, they kind of faded as the game wore on, as they couldn't contain Philadelphia's run game. And in the bowl games, we told you, watch out for Wyoming. And, I mean, look at what Levi Williams did. Passed for a touchdown, ran for 4 scores. They ran up the score. It looked weird if you watched it on TV with those throwback uniforms with Kent State and Wyoming.
Right.
Kind of looked like somebody lost their 70s Tupperware and turned them into uniforms, especially on the blue turf. But the Cowboys racked up 52 points against Kent State, showing that, you don't have to be a team in the MAC to put up points on a MAC defense. And then San Diego State, we talked about them facing UTSA, 38-24. The Aztecs, they actually threw for 333 yards, which was by far their highest passing total of the season. Yeah. The Roadrunners missed Sincere McCormick in that game quite clearly. And then in the Shot in the Dark segment, we hit 8 out of 10. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
So there was plenty of chances for everybody out there to make some money. Hopefully you did. If you didn't, well, blame yourself.
Don't blame us. Yeah.
Blame Steve and Steve.
Right, exactly. Their show's on Tuesdays. Anyway, we even mentioned, if you recall, which I thought was fun, we even had the opportunity to say, hey, look, if you're in the fantasy business, Jared, yesterday wouldn't be a bad day to start Hurst against the Washington football team, because they got no outside, backers to stop him. And 4 touchdowns later, you figure out, okay, he was right from the standpoint of he played well. Now, whether or not he'll do that ever again, who knows? But
they play Washington again in 2 weeks, so
okay, so he'll do it again against them.
So he's got that going for him.
He's got that going for him. Yeah. All right, so let's move on. Today, we got a bunch of stuff. We got some college basketball. We got some bowl games. No NFL today. No Wednesday NFL.
But there will be NFL tomorrow, so don't forget.
There will be
the 49ers tomorrow.
Right, there's that, and then there's the big Gasparilla Bowl between 2 teams that don't really care to be there. But
exactly.
So let's start by going to the college hardwood and see what's going on.
Yeah, we've got BYU facing
BYU.
Jim, one of your favorite schools there, the South Florida Bulls. It's a first-round matchup of the Diamond Head Classic out of the Stan Sheriff Center in Honolulu. BYU.
Yep, the school that was kind enough to give me a degree. Yes.
BYU's 9-2 on the year. South Florida's just 4-5. The Cougars 23rd in offensive efficiency. They're 77th in scoring offense, putting up 77.3 points a game. They're 71st in 3-point shooting, and they're 69th on the offensive glass. South Florida, they rely on defense, and if their defense folds, so do the Bulls. They're 18th in the nation in scoring defense, giving up 57.4 points a game. They're 17th in field goal percentage. But there's the problem in the very next line. South Florida is 355th in the nation in scoring offense. That means they're better than 3 teams. One of them everybody knows, because we talk about them almost every time somebody asks about them. IUPUI, they're better than them. There you go. 56.7 points a game. They are 349th in field goal percentage at 37.8. They are dead last in Division I when it comes from 3-point shooting at 23.8%. They are 300th in free throw shooting. Let's face it, Jim, I know that they were not kind enough to give you a degree. Unfortunately, the school wasn't kind enough to give Brian Gregory some actual basketball players.
Right.
They could put the ball in the basket. as well as South Florida can play defense, they're playing a BYU team that can rack up the points. We know the Cougars are an offensive team under Mark Pope, and you have to think that BYU can cover the 14 points, even with South Florida being a top 20 scoring defense. They don't score enough points to keep up with anybody.
No, that's a problem, and there's no question about that. The thing that unfortunate about the Bulls is, there's players to be had. They just don't seem to get them. And
granted, I will say they miss Alexis Yetna, who got hurt, tore his knee up during practice leading up to the season. He obviously would have been a big boost to that team, but you have to work around that with who you've got. And right now, who they've got is, well,
not much.
Exactly. They have one guy scoring in double digits. Caleb Murphy's putting up 13 a game. That's not going to work against BYU. Now with the as they used to talk about in John Feinstein's books, all the 30-year-old white guys that are back from Mormon missions playing for the Cougars.
Right. Well, look, it's funny that Florida would travel 5,000 miles to go to a basketball game where they lose, but at least they'll have fun doing it.
But then they'll get two more games and they'll probably lose too. Yes, John, IUPUI scored 52 yesterday. Unfortunately, they gave up 80 to Morehead State and still lost by 28. However, that game did go over the mark, which was a stunner. It's the first time the Jaguars had gone over the total this season. So kudos to them for giving up enough points to push it over the mark. And Euler, good to see you yesterday. I know you missed out with the Cactus. Fortunately, their game was postponed due to COVID issues, and now, of course, we have no hockey today. So I can't make fun of the Cactus until next week. Kind of disappointing.
It is. It's a shame. All right, so let's move on. And it's Western Illinois. Oh, boy, our Leathernecks. They're back.
Yeah, they had their struggles the other night against Denver, which was disappointing. They did win the game in overtime, 84-80. They faced a Nebraska Omaha team that we talked about the other day, too, when Michael asked us about it when they faced St. Thomas. We said St. Thomas minus 3.5 was a good bet, even on the road. And Nebraska and Omaha lost 80-73 in that game, so St. Thomas was a winner. Let's face it, Nebraska-Omaha, they've lost 11 in a row since they won their season opener over Hastings, some podunk school in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska. Only 3 of Nebraska-Omaha's 11 losses have come by single digits. They're 350th in scoring defense, giving up 80.5 points a game. They're 345th in field goal percentage. They're 349th in three-point defense. And just in case you thought they had problems just defensively, no, they're terrible on offense too. They're 320th in scoring offense at 63.3 points a game. They are 326th in field goal percentage at 39.9. Meanwhile, you're facing a Western Illinois team that is 18th in the nation in scoring offense, 22nd in three-point shooting, and 94th in effective field goal percentage. Nebraska-Omaha 2-10 in their last 12 at home. They're 1-7 in their last 8 as a home underdog. The Leathernecks 9-3 in their last 12 after a straight-up win, and the road team has won the last 4 meetings against the spread in this series. Look for the Leathernecks to just roll over the Mavericks and pick up their 11th win of the year while giving the Mavericks a 12th straight defeat.
Woof. So the Leathernecks keep rolling. They're kind of like they're Wyoming too. I mean, we are nothing if not loyal to our merch.
Hey, Wyoming's playing in the Diamond Head Classic today too. I like them plus 1.5 against Stanford because Stanford hasn't really impressed me this year.
Not yet, no.
So that's how they're too.
They do. Yeah, exactly. So all right, let's move on. And our next game up is
look at that. It's actual teams that people have heard of.
This is a mistake, Chris. These are two teams we know.
It's in Charlottesville. It's Virginia. Tony Bennett and the boys favored by 3.5 over Clemson. The Tigers are 8-4. The Cavaliers are 7-4. Virginia 5-2 at home this year. Clemson lost both their road games. The big matchup is going to be Clemson shooting from the outside against Virginia's obviously ferocious defense. Clemson's 5th in the nation in three-point shooting at 41.4%. Meanwhile, Virginia 47th in effective field goal percentage defense, 16th in 2-point defense, 15th in block percentage, and 122nd in turnover percentage. Clemson is just 2-9 against the spread in their last 11 on the road. They're 1-8 in their last 9 on the road against teams with a winning home record. Even worse, Clemson is 0-8 on the road in their last 8 against teams with a home winning percentage greater than 600. They are 0-7 in their last 7 as a road underdog. The favorites go on 9-3-1 against the spread in the last 13 meetings between these teams. As good as Clemson may have looked in the early going, we have to remember they haven't won on the road. They also lost to St. Bonaventure. And you have to think that Virginia, Tony Bennett, he plays well in Charlottesville. He just doesn't play well on a neutral floor in a tournament when something's at stake against teams from mid-major conferences. You have to think that the Cavaliers can pull out a win here. And these two teams will meet again down at the Little John Coliseum on January 4th. So it'll give Brad Brownell something to think about for the next couple of weeks. But basically, hang your hat with Virginia. I don't trust Clemson.
Yeah. And, Virginia, of course, hasn't been that long removed from winning a national championship. So,
and they're even less removed from losing in the first round to Ohio.
That's another point, too. Very important. All right, so we've had our 3 college games.
We got one more, Jim.
We got one more? We got our 3, but we're getting a bonus one today. So here we go.
And that's UC Davis -9 over Portland. Jim Less and the boys, the Aggies 6-3. We talked to you last week, told you to take them over Oregon State. They won on the road in Corvallis. Portland's 8-6, but Portland has dropped 4 of 5 after starting the year 7-2. The Pilots are horrible defensively. They're 289th in scoring defense. They're 192nd in field goal percentage. They're 253rd in 3-point defense. The Aggies 120th in effective field goal percentage of 51.2%. They're 118th in 2-point shooting. They're 55th in free throw attempts per field goal attempt. And let's face it, UC Davis is good on the defensive end. They're 67th in effective field goal percentage, 73rd in turnover percentage, and they're 40th by holding opposing teams to 44.5% inside the arc. Portland 3-11 in their last 14 after a straight-up loss, 1-4 in their last 5 overall. Shante Legans, he's got a long road ahead of him. You have to remember this is a team that had to start over from scratch after seeing every scholarship player leave the program last season after Terry Porter was let go. So as a brand new team in Portland, they started strong. They're fading since, and I don't have a ton of faith in them on the road against UC Davis. Like I said, they've won 4 in a row. 2 of those wins were over Pacific, which is a decent middle-of-the-road team in the West Coast. Either way, look for the Aggies to pick up the win, make it 5 straight, as Jim Less's boys improved to 7-3 on the year. Jim Less proving to be a better coach than he was a big man in the NBA when he did pretty much nothing.
Well, you got to do what you got to do. And, another University of California fill-in-the-blank team seems to do well here with us. So,
and look at that, Jim Ular doing the job for you, telling everybody to go hit the like button.
Oh, thanks, Ular. Hit it yourself.
And Joan, no, I don't need to wear a Santa hat. Most of them don't fit because they make those hats for kids, and I'm too old for that. So,
you can't wear.
But it's football season, so I'll wear a football hat. Since there's no hockey, I can't wear a hockey hat, and it's not baseball season.
And tomorrow will be Ugly Sweater Day because, of course, it's the holidays. So stay tuned for that. Ular, thanks a lot for prompting it, but we see a bunch of you out there. There's a whole lot out there. So do us a favor, run over, smash that like button, because that's what we like you to do, and subscribe. And that way you will know when we're here. And so you can come in and give us the questions like you always do. Okay, cool. All right. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we don't have hockey. So that means we go from one basketball court to the other. Only this one, you get paid to play.
Right. And it's the Cavaliers on the road to face the Celtics in Beantown. Last I knew, they hadn't canceled this game yet. We had issues where they canceled the Toronto-Chicago game earlier this afternoon. The Cavaliers have won 6 in a row. They've won 10 of their last 12. Meanwhile, Boston has dropped 5 of 7. And if you look, there's a whole slew of guys out for both teams. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Ed Davis, RJ Nembhard, Isaac Okoro, Lamar Stevens, Denzel Valentine, Dylan Windler, and Craig Elo are all out for the Cavaliers. Meanwhile, Sam Hauser, Juancho Hernan Gomez, Al Horford, Jabari Parker, Josh Richardson, Broderick Thomas, Grant Williams, and Robert Parrish won't be playing for the Celtics tonight. Neither will Kevin McHale, in case you were wondering. Sure, the Celtics have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and they should win this game, but they're not going to win it by much. Cleveland's 4-0 in their last 4 as a road underdog. They're 5-0 in their last 5 on the road against teams with a winning home record. And when you get right down to it, like I said, Boston is fading. Cleveland 10-1 in their last 11 on the road. They're 24-5 against the spread in their last 29 overall. Boston 2-5 in their last 7 as a favorite, and 0-4 in their last 4 on Wednesday. Take the points in the Cavs on the road. And Michael, good to see you hit 3 7-teamers yesterday. Like we said, it was a good night for everybody if you were here with us yesterday. And it's good to see that some of you guys had a good night as well. Feel free to send all your money to me because why not?
Right.
It's the holiday.
Or at least a small percentage. Yes.
And like David said,
Right.
the NHL will not go to China for the Olympics. I think we talked about that earlier this week, Jim, that we figured that was going to be the case.
We did, yeah.
And, it's probably a wise decision with so many games being postponed already. It makes more sense to play it safe than potentially run the risk of making things worse.
Well, one of the things I saw that was interesting was a report in The Athletic that was talking about the fact that the Canadian players were concerned that they were going to have an issue with if they went to China, played in the Olympics, and then somebody tested positive for COVID. Could the entire Canadian hockey team be stuck in Asia until they were past protocol to get back in the country? So there was concern that even if they sent players out, they may not come back. Standpoint of at least come back in the normal period of time. So there was concern from that standpoint. I see no reason to go to China and play hockey. It makes no sense. The Chinese.
And Joe, why are you upset if you went under 47 in that game yesterday? I wonder, because the game was 27-17. They only scored 44 points. If you had under 47, you would have won. I don't think the line ever.
Right,
I didn't realize the line opened that high because when I saw it, it was 41, and I see it went all the way down to 39.5. But if you jumped in early, more power to you.
Good on you, Joe.
Both those games were low scoring yesterday, which wasn't that much of a surprise given all the missing pieces.
No, we mentioned it to you. We told you. So anyway, all right. More on the hardwood and the NBA, and up comes
the Hawks and the Magic.
Right, your Magic. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's right. Look at all the people missing. Trae Young and Clint Capella both out for Atlanta. DeAndre Hunter's out with that wrist injury. They will get Bogdan Bogdanović back after he's missed the last 8 games with an ankle. Meanwhile, the Magic without Michael Mulder, he's the latest to go into the health and safety protocols this morning. Mo Bamba, Mo Wagner, Terrence Ross, R.J. Hampton, Ignas Brazdeikis, Jalen Suggs, Markelle Fultz, E'Twaun Moore, Jonathan Isaac, Michael Carter Williams, all out. Wendell Carter Jr. and Cole Anthony are questionable. No truth to the rumor they tried to get Dennis Scott to come back and play so they could have somebody shoot from the perimeter. Tracy McGrady also unavailable. Shaq is too busy eating at Papa John's. Orlando 3-7. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say my guess is they can't get any of the characters over from Disney to play because they're union. So my guess is that the Magic are doomed.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? They may. Remember last week we said that the Lakeland Magic might come over and play. This might be a good opportunity for them.
I know they did sign 4 guys to hardship deals from there last week in Friday's game. But, I mean, they might need to get some more guys because, But let's face it, Orlando 3-7 in their last 10 on Wednesday. They're 2-5 in their last 7 overall. They're 3-10 in their last 13 against teams with a losing record. The Hawks are 4-0 in their last 4 on Wednesday. They are 18-6-2 in their last 26 at home against teams with a road winning percentage under 400. The Magic 0-4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings, and they're 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 in Atlanta. In a battle of attrition, always take the team that has at least a couple starters on the floor. John Collins, Cam Reddish on the floor for the Hawks. They might go get Dominique Wilkins or Lou Hudson, but look for the Hawks to pick up the win over Orlando at home at the State Farm Arena tonight.
I don't see any way the Magic's going to pull that one around. All right, one more on the association before we move on to college football and the bowls.
Yeah, we've got the Nuggets facing. Whoops, look at that! It skipped ahead on us. Look at that. The Nuggets over the Thunder because nobody wants to talk about Oklahoma City. Denver's won 3 of 4. The Thunder have won 2 straight. But the Thunder will not have Mike Muscala, who they're resting. Terrence Mann is questionable. Thunder dead last in the league in scoring offense at 99.2%. They're last in field goal percentage at 41.3%. And they move all the way up to second last when it comes to three-point shooting as they shoot 31.1% from beyond the arc. Nuggets fourth in field goal percentage, and they're led, of course, by their big man, Nikola Jokic, averaging 26.3 points, 13.5 rebounds, 7.5 assists this season. The Thunder don't have a guy that can match up with him, let's be perfectly honest. Denver 6-2 in their last 8 on the road against teams with a losing home record, and they've gone 13-3 in the last 16 meetings. They're 7-1 in the last 8 meetings in Oklahoma City. Give the 6, take the Nuggets on the road as they get the win over the last place Thunder.
Yeah, they much thunder in Oklahoma City these days. So, all right, we've got the college basketball games of the evening. We've had the NBA for the evening. And now, as you could see, because everybody was so excited to get out of watching the Oklahoma City Thunder play, we are moving on to college football and the bowl games. And first up on the agenda is...
Well, it's the whole one bowl game tonight. It's the Armed Forces Bowl.
Okay.
Army favored by 6.5 over Missouri. Army finished 8-4 in the regular season. We talked, of course, a couple weeks ago with Pete Medhurst before the Army-Navy game. Missouri was 6-6. But if you look there at the next line, Tyler Beatty, he was fourth in the nation with 1,604 rushing yards and 14 scores, and also led the team in receptions with 54, is out for tonight's game. He decided he was going to step out. Also out, quarterback Connor Bazelak, safety Martez Manuel, cornerback Caleb Evans, and defensive tackle Akil Byers. So not only did you take out your best offensive weapon, you took out your starting quarterback and 3 of your best defensive players to face an Army team that is second in the nation in rushing offense at 286.9 yards per game. Missouri's defense was 124th against the run. If that doesn't scream mismatch, I don't know what does. Missouri 110th in total defense, 116th in scoring defense. Their Tigers are 3-14 in their last 17 in December, 3-15 in their last 18 after an ATS loss, 2-9 in their last 11 against teams with a winning record. Army 4-0 in their last 4 after an ATS loss. They're 7-1-1 against the spread in their last 9 on grass. You have to think that the Black Knights, with Christian Anderson, Tyler, Tyrell Robinson, everybody else, everybody's going to get the ball. It's going to be like Oprah giving away stuff. Army's going to be giving away touchdowns as they run all over a Missouri defense that was leaky to begin with, and now they took out 3 of their top players. Offensively, you have no weapons now that you took out your best player and your starting quarterback. Look for the Black Knights to close the season with a win for Jeff Monken as they go to 9-4 on the year.
And the fun thing for Army is they're playing the game in Navy Stadium. Okay, so the bowl games are being played in Annapolis at the Navy Marine Corps Stadium, and it's the home of Pete Medhurst, as we like to call it, but also of Navy football. So Army gets a sweet win.
Pete built.
The house of Pete built. Yeah. You expect that Army not only would like to get this win, they'd like to do it right on Navy's turf. So that's kind of a cool thing for them. All right, so that's bowls tonight. We are now headed for 2 for the money, right?
Yep, because it's such a light night with no hockey and one bowl game and no football. And like we just said, I like Army over Missouri. I mean, there's no reason that Missouri should even be in this game come halftime because Army should run it right down their throats. Like we said, Denver -6 over Oklahoma City. And like we said at the top of the show, I like BYU -14.5 over South Florida. The Bulls simply do not know how to score. They couldn't hit water falling out of a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Brian Gregory, I feel bad for him. He's a good coach, but he has no offensive weapons to speak of. And like we said, Western Illinois, they're 10-2. Nebraska Omaha's lost 11 in a row. Nebraska Omaha, they don't play offense, they don't play defense, but I'm sure they've got maybe they have a nice campus or something. But the Leathernecks should walk all over them and walk out of the arena there with a victory, rather convincingly.
Okay, well, too bad for the Bulls. They're getting ready to fall. Okay, well, they're prompting me for the show. All right, buddy, let's move on. For the show.
Yeah, now look at that. We've got a big one there at the top. Oklahoma's favored by 26 over Alcorn State. But if you look, Alcorn State just 1-9 on the season. They're coming off some rather brutal losses. They lost by 37 to Baylor on Monday. They lost by 21 to Tulsa, 19 to Wichita State. They lost by 32 to Houston. Tulane beat them by 21. Gonzaga beat them by 27. You have to think Oklahoma, Porter Moser, he's got that team playing well. They're 9-2 on the year. They're coming off back-to-back wins. And including in that stretch, they beat a very good Arkansas team handily on a neutral floor by 22 last week. If they can beat Arkansas, who's a good team under Eric Musselman, they should have no problem beating Alcorn State in Norman at the Lloyd Noble Center. I also like I said, Cleveland plus 5.5 over Boston. Virginia minus 3.5 over Clemson, and out there in the Diamond Head Classic, the late game that tips off at midnight Eastern time. But hey, it's only 7:00 in Hawaii. I'll be up at 2:30 when the game's over because I have to look at the second round games for the Diamond Head Classic. I like the Commodores, Jerry Stackhouse and the boys -7 over the host Hawaii team. The Rainbow Warriors have beaten no one of substance this year. They're 4-3. Mm-hmm. You have to think that Scottie Pippen can have a big game for the Commodores.
Yep. I'll tell you what, the Commodores out there in Hawaii, unfortunately for you, you're contractually obligated to pay attention to that game. So that's just the way it is. I feel for you, my friend. I do. But the Commodores and it'll be a good trip out to Hawaii. So maybe that's what they're enjoying. So, all right, well, that's that one. And so now we go for the big time. And you may, sir, talk about our Chinese menu for the day. And just for the record, as Chris said earlier, yesterday's money, yesterday's for the show, and even the big board had some big opportunities. So pay attention, my children. Here we go.
Yeah, we had 8 out of 10 out of here yesterday. If it hadn't been for, IUPUI letting Morehead State score 80, it would have been 9 out of 10. But, you can't have everything, as Stephen Wright said. Where would you put it?
Right.
Like we said, and we always say, you can pick 2 of these, you can pick 4 of these, you can pick 6 of them, you can pick 1, you can mix it with something else, whatever works for you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's not my job. But yeah, the Nuggets and the Thunder, surprisingly, we talked about how bad Oklahoma City is offensively. They've been better lately. I look for this to go over 214. Denver has gone over the total in 10 of their last 11 on the road. You figure it out because both these teams play at a slower than average tempo. Like I said, the Hawks over the Lakeland Magic. Let's face it, Orlando's a train wreck mixed with a dumpster fire with a little bit of Chernobyl mixed in. They have no roster to speak of at the moment. And the Hawks at least have a couple starters that they can rely on. The Clippers over the Kings. The Kings are the West Coast version of Orlando when it comes to not having players. Look for the Clippers. They got Paul George back the other day. They should cover there. This I mistyped. It's actually supposed to be Army versus Missouri going over 54. I was in the middle of typing something else and forgot to correct it. Should say over. We talked about Missouri is horrible at defensively. Army should rack up the points against them. We've seen Army beat or put up big numbers against bad defenses this season, including 56 against Wake Forest in that video game 70-56 loss earlier this year. UC Davis -9 over Portland. Wichita State -17 over Prairie View A&M. The Panthers are 0-9. Don't count them out once SWAC play starts. They always play bad in non-conference because they're overmatched. That'll continue here. But once SWAC play starts, watch out for the Panthers. They made a run last year. They'll make another one this year. Monmouth -5 over Hofstra. The Hawks are 12-0 ATS this season. They're 10-2 overall. They're playing at home. Look for them to beat the Pride. South Dakota, I went against them the other day against Oral Roberts, and they lost. Today, I like them -5 at home over Kansas City. We talked about Kansas City the other day against South Dakota State. They lost there. They will lose here. And finally, Houston -18 over Texas State. I get Texas State is 9-2, but when you look at who the Bobcats have faced, their best win this season is a win over Rice, ranked 157th in the KenPom rankings. They've also beaten Incarnate Word, Dixie State, who will be Utah Tech next year, for those of you wondering. Eastern Washington, they beat Denver, they beat Lamar, and they've got 3 wins over teams that are not Division I programs. Oh, and I forgot their season opening win over Incarnate Word. This is a major step up in competition, going to the Fertitta Center where Houston almost never loses. You have to think that Kelvin Sampson's team will be ready for the challenge of Texas State and pick up the win there to go to 11-2 on the season.
There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the day. Now, tomorrow, be sure to be here because we're going to have a special show. It's our holiday show. We're going to give you some of the things that you would like to find under your holiday tree or in your stockings.
And if there's any games you guys want to talk about that take place over the weekend, we can do that tomorrow, because we won't be here Fridays because it's Christmas Eve. We figure none of you will be here either.
Right. So if you want to, just leave it in the comments, and we can find it. So you have plenty of time to do that. All right, gang. For Mr. King, I'm Jim Williams. Once again, thanking Jim Williams' avatar for his work last week on the show. And we are going to leave you. Stay tuned, 3 o'clock, Scott and Scott. Not to be confused with Steve and Steve. Scott and Scott.
Yeah, they ran yesterday.
You're right. Back to the Window coming up at 3 o'clock right here on the Winners and Whiners Sports Broadcasting Network. And until tomorrow, everybody, have a great, great day.